this legal ambush.
Good afternoon, everyone, friends and colleagues, and welcome to the recording of the first episode of this season's Legally Speaking podcast. So we have an exciting program lined up for you today. We have a very exciting gentleman here who we're going to interview. But before we get into that, I have the icebreaker, do the interview, get questions from you guys, and close up another activity. Legally Speaking is a podcast series created by the second Vice President Committee, managed and created by them. It's just a safe space to talk about all things law, the highs and lows of attaining that Bachelor of Laws degree. Let's start off with our icebreaker, and all of you can participate, including you, Mr. Buchanan. Alright, so the game is two lies and a law. You're gonna guess which one is the lie and which are the laws. Right? And we're all so learned and keeping abreast. Okay, very good. So the first one. In Canada, it's illegal to whistle after 7 p.m. In Barbados, it's illegal to wear camouflage. And in St. Lucia, you need a permit to play dominoes on the beach. Which ones are the lies and which one is the law? You?
The law is you can wear camouflage in Barbados.
Okay, that's one answer. Any other answers?
I second that answer.
Okay. It is true. Why is it true? I don't know, but you're not allowed to wear camouflage in Barbados. Next set. In Trinidad and Tobago, playing steel and in public after 10 p.m. requires a special license. In Dominica, they once had the Dread Act that allowed police to arrest Rastafarians without warrant. And in Grenada, it is illegal to eat mangoes on public transportation. Well, no, you answered already. Next time.
Suppose the man know everything.
There are more than one MPs at the faculty. That's one answer. Any other answers? Let's hear what the gentleman has to say. That's the answers. No other alternative answers. None of us think it's illegal to eat mangoes in Grenada afterwards. No. Okay. Well, it is true. Dominica once had the Dread Act that allowed police to arrest disappearance without warrant. But without further ado, I'll get into the introduction of the man we're all here to see today. Isat Buchanan is a Jamaican attorney and politician whose life embodies the redemption and resilience that he's well known for. A proud alumnus of Meadowbrook High School, he overcame personal challenges early in life and went on to earn his law degree from the University of the West Indies before completing professional training at the Norman Manley Law School. He gained national recognition for his work in criminal law and human rights advocacy, and now he's the opposition spokesperson on youth and human rights in the Shadow Cabinet, representing several high-profile clients and championing issues of justice and equality in his legal career. But before that, Buchanan's entrance into politics as a member of Parliament for Portland Eastern with the People's National Party further reflects his dedication to community development and transformative leadership. Outside of his professional pursuits, Buchanan enjoys going to the gym, which the ladies really appreciate, hosting podcasts, and making music. Simple pastimes that reflect his grounded and balanced approach to life. His story is a testament to perseverance, personal growth, and we are honored and elevated to have Mr. Buchanan joining us today. So I'll start off with the first question, and the answer for this for a lot of us is really because of Annalise Keating. But what pushed you to pursue a career in law?
You said Annalise Keating. Boy, that's a bad start. Actually, getting into law was, I want to say, divine intervention. I'm from the side where you break the law. Thereafter, if you want to call it serendipity, I was before a judge, having been charged with trespassing on my own property. Long story, but the judge, and I will say her name, Justice Pusey, said to me after dismissing the case that I advocated well for myself and that I should be a lawyer. And here we are.
And speaking of trespassing, Is there any advice that you'd give your younger self in terms of directing him into a better path? Is there anything that you do differently?
Boy, I wish I could say yes, there's many things I could do differently, but I am who I am today because of my past experiences. I would say choose your friends wisely. I would say it is a beautiful thing to be young. Don't rush yourself to be an adult. Many of you are young, brilliant. Your future, you have your whole life ahead of you. Just focus on being intelligent, being bright, and completing what you're completing. The God and time will do the rest. So the advice I would have given myself possibly is to remain focused.
Speaking of focus, well, all of us that do jurisprudence would know it's very hard.
Jurisprudence.
Yes,
Oh, God.
yes. Well, that gets into the next question. Is there any course or faculty that made you want to drop out?
A course at faculty that made me want to drop out. Yes. Is Dr. Celia Blake still here?
Yes, she
I
is.
plead the fifth. She might be outside now. Yeah, there's one. I did company law, and Dr. Celia Blake is the most intellectual gangster that walks the faculty of law. I will say that very intimidating. She expected a lot, and I think she really made me so scared that I ended up with an A plus. I was studying in a study group, and we all signed up for the course, and make sure that you're in study groups, affirm. And let me tell you, the second week, I don't see nobody in the course from mine. And it's like, no, we changed course, you're on your own. And I just said I'm gonna fail, but I ended up with an A plus. And then when the second term came, she had corporate law and she was telling me to take it. I was like, nope. So yeah, one course, company law.
Okay. Moving on now to your professional career. We all know that you've taken on a number of high-profile cases. I think we all know the one I'm thinking of. That is the case that had to do with the real estate board, the most popular case. Yeah, but how do you approach high-profile cases like that?
How do I approach high profile cases? All right, so from I graduated from the Faculty of Law, if you interface with Tracy Robinson,
Mm.
um, your life should have changed already. You should have tenacity of purpose. If you excel in any course that Professor Tracy Robinson is teaching you in, I think you're going to be a great lawyer. The difference between net fishing and spear fishing. What I will say is, if you know the law, doesn't matter how many years people are at the bar, the law is the law. Be an advocate, be confident, and speak about the future like a fortune teller like myself. Like I was in third year, final year, when I did that other famous case. When the person from that famous case actually was found guilty, and that's why I did my independent research paper on. So it's almost like I was like, yeah, I even put on Facebook, hey, I go free, you know. People's like, people's like, what? And then here we are now. So you have to just know what you're doing, research, study. If you know the law, you can give judges a hard time. I hope they're not watching this. Yeah.
Well, ironically, the president of the Court of Appeal is joining us later at 6 o'clock at faculty. So let's hope that she is busy in transit. But that really is a powerful statement. It shows that you've been dedicated to advocacy from a long time,
Mhm.
and it really shows that their position now as opposition spokesperson on human rights and youth is quite fitting. All of us who have done constitutional law recall when Professor Robinson focused on the Virgo case for 1 week, which is the case that you were involved in.
Yeah.
I find that quite memorable. But are there any other cases that you think were kind of really the epitome of your human rights foundation?
You know, I'm gonna tell you, all of them. I have done some cases where I think every case that I would have done has a human rights element. If you approach, especially the criminal law, from the constitutional eyes, you tend to find the overlap between the courses that you're doing now. I would say to you, read all your cases now because they all apply at some place in life. One would think, as you mentioned, the real estate case, the real estate board. And the attorney on the other side, she was so rude. I think she was teaching up here, and she was like, "Oh, him gonna lose. Him don't know this, him don't know that." And usually, when you're a younger attorney, the older ones abuse you and bully you because And I'm talking about older at years at the bar, because as you can see, my Moses and my wisdom has come in. But I will say it's important to always think about due process, fair hearing, judicial review versus constitutionality, and apply it right across the board. Fairness, whether it is horizontal application or the vertical application of the Constitution and Charter of Rights. Believe me, it changes everything.
On a much more lighter note, though,
Mhm.
has
Oh,
there
that was
been
heavy. That was just a light. That's a light part. But okay, go ahead.
has there been any embarrassing moments in court?
In court, not for me. Um,
Well, you
and
must know somebody that something happened to
in court,
in court.
no. So I think I want to say that I am the embarrassing moment to the legal profession. So I don't really pay attention to anything else that's happening in the court. I'm always happy to be the least among everybody. But if I'd say embarrassing moment, I think there's one time I was at a particular court, maybe the highest court in the land, and somebody's cell phone rang. I thought that was embarrassing. But more so, it's usually any attorney who is not prepared that can be embarrassing. So the moral of the story, proper preparation prevents whatever the rest of it was. Yeah.
All right, as I mentioned before, you are the opposition spokesperson on human rights and youth,
Hmm.
and I'm sure you'll be in the political arena for a lot longer uh, than this parliamentary cycle, meaning that you're likely
Speak it into being. I love that word. That's a standing ovation.
and so you'll be involved in a lot of fundamental changes, I hope.
Mhm.
What do you think are the biggest strengths and the biggest drawbacks in our legal system as it is now?
Wow. I learned not to critique the legal system. I mean, right now,
I can do.
be very careful. You have to be called to the bar first. But yeah, let me tell you, honestly, we are a developing country. From the legislative arm, which is Parliament and the Senate, I think in a perfect world, all lawmakers should at least have an LLB. That's just me, but people will criticize. But one of the biggest weaknesses is that we have too much cut and paste, which is why we're in an embarrassing position with the Firearms Act right now. Um, I will say to young attorneys, aspiring attorneys, you're going to have to interface with the law. You're in the best position while you're studying to do your research papers, critique legislation, and try to ensure that when it's your time to go into the political arena, like Miss Law is going to be in politics one day, all the Miss Laws and Mr. Laws become very famous.
And the
So,
podcast.
yeah, that's true. But it's important to ensure that you you participate because we are lacking in terms of just how criminology versus crime, especially that we are very reactive, and it really makes our justice system more administrative than human rights based. That's my critique.
Well, you did say that you don't want to be too critical. But let me just push a little further.
Go ahead.
Uh-oh.
If you could implement or repeal one law, any law on the books, what would it be?
Right now,
Yes.
the Firearms Act.
First one.
I find it to be the heights of dunceness reached and kept were not attained by researching law across the world and the Commonwealth.
Right.
But legislators, while their companions were actually making law, were cutting and pasting, and as a result, persons with toy guns get 15 years as a mandatory minimum sentence
Mm.
and takes away the judicial arm's power to take and assess cases on the facts of each case. I'm very offended by it. I said it when the Firearms Act was actually amended. I also gave warning to the youth of this country that leave the guns alone. I mean, this is probably the only country where it's you have a better chance of going to the Privy Council if you stab somebody than if you shoot somebody. There's something fundamentally wrong with how we attack gun crimes and ignore the realities of the evil that is crime.
Mm.
So yeah, it would be that. Correct, currently.
And all you keen law students would recall the conversations we had. Well, if you're in second year or third year, recall the conversations we had about mandatory minimum sentencing in the
Mhm.
position of either court, CCJ, and Privy Council on that. I'll touch on that a little bit later. But going into advice for law students, many of us struggle with balancing academic pressure and being Miss Law. In the case of some people in the audience,
Boy, picking up Miss Law, Mr. Law, now, you know.
where is Mr. Law? But how did you balance them, and is there any advice you can give them to help with this issue?
This is where, as I said, I used to tutor here. The proudest moment for me now is going into the courts. It's about parish courts, circuit courts, and my students are the prosecutors and defense attorneys. All you have to do is show up. You're here because you're the brightest of the bright. Apart from the ones who over by Midlaw. I don't know why they all do Midlaw, but I guess. But anyway, shout out to all persons who are doing law. I will say to you that, especially if you're on the journey to be UEKT, you are a special class. Even if you're in here getting C's and D's, you're the brightest of the bright that Jamaica has to offer. Don't make anybody small you up. The focus for the next 5 years, if you are in first year, is to complete and become an attorney. I always tell people, see your way out of the faculty of law and see your way out of law school. Some of the biggest name brand attorneys, they had C degrees. It's beautiful to graduate with first class honors. I did, and it makes a difference. But what I would say to you is um, read all the cases, to commit the 5 years that you have to become an attorney, because it will be the best 5 years of your life. And trust me, I know some of the dumbest people that completed law school. Believe me, and they're some of the brightest lawyers, practical lawyers now. And I'm using the word dunce as a term of art to say don't let the person next to you intimidate you. All you need to do is complete. That's why they call it the practice of law. I'm still learning. I make every effort to hire a recent graduate, certainly in my legal practice, because it's the fresh eyes, the people who are fornicating with the law now that makes the space better. I mean, just look at that famous case that you talk about. When we went to the Court of Appeal before Justice McDonald Bishop, the first female president of the Court of Appeal, we were the youngest set of attorneys. No King's Counsel. I think the eldest of us was 10 years at the bar. And we put our foot in that legal stuff. Very proud, especially. I don't know if you guys interface with Iqbal Chevrier. he was what 2 years at the bar, and he was arguing before the Court of Appeal, and we won. And he's a brilliant young man. I met him here when I was teaching at the faculty. I'm taking the time to say to you, if you didn't hear anything else I said, is that you have a place here and you are the hope for a better Jamaica. That will, especially if your training is from here, you're less likely to be a part of the corrupted class, a class that exists.
So, for context, audience members,
Because context matters.
because context matters, it always does. The reason we've been picking on Ms. Law is because Mr. Buchanan himself, when he was at faculty, had joined the Mr. and Miss Law pageant. And aside from your amazing good looks, what else pushed you to get into what else pushed you to get into that pageant?
We had again the Mona Law Society is the gift to the Faculty of Law. Appreciate all of you because it is the space for creativity. One such is legally speaking. We didn't have legally speaking when I was here, and I did love to speak, even if it wasn't legal. I mean, love chat. Um, but I will say they just was like, you need to enter. And at the time, I don't think, when it comes, it's a beauty pageant, or so they think. People think it's a beauty pageant, but it really isn't. It's a lot more about intellect, law, and just being well rounded. It's an opportunity to stand before a crowd, which is what you're here for. Advocacy is speaking when the whole world is watching, or speaking before different levels of intellect, but knowing how to adjust to your audience. And of course, at the time, maybe not now, but yeah, I did look good when I was coming to the Faculty of Law. And it was like, enter, I was like, of course. And of course, I'm going to win. And I did. So it's about confidence building. So no matter who you are, if you have the opportunity, you enter to support the pageant itself, and to have to share experiences with some of the people who might one day be the Attorney General. And if you're Miss Law and the person who is the Attorney General don't win, you can say, yeah, I just had the earlier job, I beat you and was whatever. So yeah, it's a snapshot in life that you want to capture, be a part of something amazing.
And that really speaks to as well the ability.
Oh, I missed one thing. I did beat Rush Cam. Yeah. I did Rush Cam, I did beat you. Don't ever forget. You came second. Yeah.
That really speaks to the ability of Abundant Law Society to mold the ideal lawyer or the ideal law student.
hmm
But what other skills do you think law students should start developing now here in faculty to start succeeding in their careers?
like I said, the only skill that you need to have is confidence. Even if you're wrong, you be strong and wrong in your advocacy. It's about ensuring you might not know it now. Every single person in this room is your colleague. If you're nasty to them now, they may be a judge. They may be the lead prosecutor in a case where you otherwise could have had not such a hard time. Just be nice, exercise humility, and for God's sakes, if you don't have to buy the shoes that go click, click, clock, clock, the world would be a better place.
All right. So congratulations on your win in Portland, Eastern.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
I just want to remind you guys that people run for member of parliament. The people are associated with, other groups of people, but we're congratulating this person. Right. So I think we know why you decided to go
Was that
into
a
politics.
political statement?
Was that a
You
political
you
statement?
sound like a, you
Was
sound
that a
like a
political
PNP.
statement?
Sorry, man.
I think we know why you decided to go into politics. But talk to me about first steps. You're a freshman MP essentially, and you're on the shadow cabinet. That's an accomplishment.
Mhm.
What's the first thing on the agenda for you in terms of pushing for the people?
Well, on this Tuesday, I spoke in Parliament for the first time. The contribution, I'm not antagonistic, and my purpose and goal is to improve the lives of the people of Portland Eastern, but Jamaica at large. I'm a humanitarian first, a human rights attorney. So no matter which side I'm on, the problem is going to arise if there is any attempt to disenfranchise people. So what's on my agenda is to ensure that the people of Portland, before anywhere else, have water in their pipe. That something as basic and essential as that is one thing that's important. But apart from that, again, the firearms legislation is something that needs to be addressed immediately. There will be conversations about the rehabilitation legislation, the Expungement Act. I'm looking forward to that because it's important to me. If you knew anything about my candidacy or anything about me, um, 26 or 28 years later, there's still conversations about my convictions, even the ones that are expunged. I always talk about them, but for some strange reasons, there are persons be like, oh, he's a twice convicted drug dealer. And you miss the point when, yeah, I'm also an accomplished attorney, um, one of few who have advocated before the highest court of the land, as well as I have no clogs and fetters in my existence, and that has to count for something. And that is, we only have one life. Life is something given to us without knowing where to receive it. And the mistakes that we make and the purpose of especially a criminal justice system is that you want the outcomes to be an ISAC, just as how you have in America persons who are judges now who would have had run-ins with the law, and senators who are actually advocating to remove the very laws that made them become a senator. And for me, if nothing else, after 5 years, every young person in Jamaica is supposed to say, if that the Rasta man they can turn MP, my ambitions must be to want to participate. And I want that for all of you. And I want you to know, even though I've never met you before, you're all better than me. So the generations that follow has to do something far more extraordinary than anything I would have ever achieved. And yeah, that's what you need to know.
So let's let's talk about something. That's really powerful.
Mm,
What do we all have in common here? We're all going to get a Bachelor of Laws degree.
no, we're all not at UTech.
We're all not at UTech.
No, no,
That's so good. That is so good.
I'm
UTech
joking.
night.
I'm joking.
UTech night.
No, no,
UTech night. Okay.
I'm just,
Very good.
UTech, I'm joking. I'm just proud to
I'm
be
not joking.
UTated.
We're all going to get Bachelor
Okay.
of Laws degrees, yes? But not all of us are going to practice. But I think that people who understand the levers of change, even if they're not practicing, are bound to be advocates or morally obligated to be advocates. What outside of practicing do you think is important for people who know the law? What should they be doing to push change in society if not practicing?
No, so I'm gonna say this. I am of the belief that in a perfect world, every person should interface with the law. Even if you don't want to practice, I encourage you go to Norman Manley, get your practicing certificate, um, and be prepared to see your practicing certificate as being a part of the Justice League. So whether you're Wonder Woman, Batman, whatever, it's your alter ego. If something happens in the world that you don't like, you need to be in a position to stand before a court and advocate. That's the importance of it. But more so is to participate in conversations and don't leave X to the Jamaican dunces that has taken over the space. Honestly. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. I'm all for freedom of expression, but it must not be overrun by persons of I don't even know what they are, but you don't make your voices silent, especially when you sometimes you're seeing conversations and you know the answer. Sometimes they shut you out of the answer when you know the answer. But speak up for yourself. Jamaica is depending on you to advocate for the voiceless. Can you clap me? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here this afternoon. You've been listening to Legally Speaking. Thank you.